and the pledge of allegiance. Gracious Lord, be with us tonight as we come together as council, as administrators, police departments, and fire departments to represent not only the citizens, but the needs and the protection and the quality of the services we provide. Yes, Lord, we're at a time where peace throughout the world is needed, and peace throughout Bennettsville and South Carolina and any other area is much prayed for and much wanted. But as we go through this tonight, let us understand that we are a caring community. We're going to do what's best for our citizens. We're going to be diligent. And Lord, hope us can give us strength to do your will. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Good prayer.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
I had this in the wrong order, but let's have us a roll call, Ms. Wanda, just start us off.
Wanda Weaver, District 1.
Tyrone R. Davis, District 2.
Caroline Hart, District 3.
Bill Jennings, District 4.
Saheem McCray, District 5.
Gregory Scott, District 6.
Very good. And as mentioned, the mayor is out tonight. We wish he and his wife the best care they can have. Have a public meeting scheduled this time. I did see one person or anyone in. The first reading will follow this meeting whenever we get there, and a discussion of items. I'm going to start this though, if we could. Do we have any public comments regarding our budget or employee comments? And as a public and an employee. Mr. Simon, can we go into discussion now of our budget, or?
You mean for the special meeting?
No, it just in far as the work session side of
Yeah,
it.
what we could do is we could give it 5 minutes just to see if someone's on the show, and then if not, you
Yeah,
could.
we do a little better than that. 10 after 6, we'll see, and hope the
10.
public will come in.
Right, we could adjourn after that, for the special.
Well, can I ask this? It looked like we're supposed to discuss it and then open it for public comments. So can we go ahead and stop doing that?
Right now, this is a public hearing. But you can do what you want, just the purpose of the meeting is to hear from you.
Well, we'll wait about a few more minutes, 10 after 6, and we'll go into discussion, no voting or any of that for the time. We will go to the regular meeting after that. It got a little confusing. We had a work session, then a public hearing, then a meeting on schedule at one time. One we kind of got away from. So it does happen. We're all here for the same purpose, so we would like to hear if anybody's got any comments from the public. And then we have one participant or one person. Maybe more.
Mayor Pro Temp, if I could, recognize, I would like to say one thing regarding
Sure.
participation. So I know we don't have anybody here tonight, at least not yet, but we do want to thank our citizens for participating with the budget survey. I think all of you have a copy of it, but we had over 250 people to participate. So even if they're not here tonight, I feel like we did move the needle from last year, where we did that same survey and we had about 50 participants. So we are finding ways to engage our community more, and we're going to continue to do that.
And the comments that we received throughout that were very sincere. I mean, they weren't like pointed. They were all helpful, positive in a way of what can move to more positivity in every area they discussed. Learned a lot from it. And we hope the public definitely stays involved throughout this year.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
I just had a comment, or a question rather. Mr. Simon, I don't think we've discussed this, but is there any plan to release the results of the survey, to the public?
No, but if that's something else we want to do, we certainly can do that. What we would probably do is, take off names,
Of course.
and we probably need to take off the address as well, so people cannot pinpoint maybe who said what. I think what's important are just the results from
Right.
the community overall.
Yeah.
So if that's something we want to do, we certainly can do that. We would also want to do that with a memo, sort of clarifying responses and clarifying our stance on responses. And that just protects the city in case of those responses that may be negative and may not be accurate. You don't want to float that out as a city because you're sort of sanctioning some of those comments in that circumstance.
I guess what I was thinking, rather than, releasing individual answers, maybe present it as a graph or something like that, that
Yes.
would just show a summary.
Yes, we can do that. That's probably the better way to do it.
Anyone comment? Okay, at this time, is anyone with any public comments concerning the City of Bennettsville's proposed budget or upcoming budget, just that we're discussing tonight and voting on for first reading next week, and this week, I'm sorry, and passing over the next couple of weeks? Anybody? Welcome to come talk to us about it.
Referring to the public here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna get down for it in a minute. Okay, Mr. Simon, since we have no public comments at this time, we'll, they want to be recognized later. Maybe we can do that since we're still early. Could you lead us into the discussions of the 26, 27 budget?
Motion to adjourn. Adjourn.
So, yeah, we did the official meeting then. Okay, public meeting was opened at 6 o'clock. Is there a motion to adjourn at 6:10 with no comments?
Also, second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Very good. All right, with discussion of items that I know we all have some, which is good. An open discussion is wonderful. Don't be shy. And let's see where we are. Mr. Simon?
Is our 6:30 meeting?
No, the 6:30 meeting is when we're gonna call to order for a first reading.
Okay.
This is just general discussion for the public. Actually, Dan, you have it all.
Council, do we have anything? I know that
Yes.
6:34 instead of 6:30, with the plans to have first readings and advertisement of ordinances for the 26-27 budget. Before we had that reading though, I'd like to consider, if this is possible, Mr. Simon, to a general discussion for about 10 more minutes on where we were, because I know I have comments on it, I know others may too, and I think we need that.
Well, I will say, I think going forward, we don't need to schedule no meeting within those 30 minutes of each other if we're gonna be talking about their budget and stuff like this. I mean, I just kind of think that is ridiculous.
Okay,
So,
but you.
It's his first reading though.
Mr. Jennings decided to have general discussion after you adjourned the other meeting. We really didn't have to do that. We could have just sat right here and started the meeting at 6:30 and had the same discussion that we're having. So there was no mistake made. That was, Mr. Jennings decided to go ahead and move forward with general discussion. I actually had Mr. Miles to cut the camera off because that was not an official meeting. We adjourned the public hearing and now we're opening up a special.
Well, back to the general discussion, I'd like to, I agree with, I have no problem with where we are. We have a big concern here. I do like to express my position with the police department as a popular thing. I'm certainly, if they can fill their vacancies and need more, that would be one thing. But you look at the current budget, they actually are budgeted more than they spent this year and next year. And we were trying to cut $400,000 or so out of the budget to give a balanced budget in the general services. It's not that I want to reduce the service of the police department in any way, shape, or form in the other part. I want to enhance it. But in doing so, if we're not going to cut expenses where it looks like we're able to, and that's just what I'm going by. I'm going by where we are and what we spent. And the budget as a whole has done great, mainly because the salary budget, pick a number, $200,000 less than was budgeted from last year. It was about half of what we were saying we were going to take out of that budget. But that's just conversation. There's no votes been made on it, and I'm only one vote at the time. And I'd love to have more ideas if that's possible before I make my one vote as city council member to where we're gonna find that $100,000. I'm using round figures. I'm not gonna get into the details of dollars and cents here because a budget is a budget, but after we pass it, we gotta live by it. And nothing against the police department. I'd love to have all the people it could possibly need. I'd love to see a lot of things improved, and chief and assistant chief are doing an absolutely excellent job. There's no doubt about that. Very respected job. Nothing personal about this, but we've got to look to where we can find the $400,000, and we've got pick a number, a week and a half to do it now. We kind of, we've been beating it back and forth. Police department was at the time shorthanded and had been for the most part of the year, and I don't know the details on that, so it looked like, if there's need for all these people, I'd love to see every one of them hired and hired soon and get certified soon. We need certified officers as well, I understand. That's expensive. But at the spur of the moment and the time running out, and hasn't been too much influence around here to increase revenues, may be a good opportunity to look at that and put the positions, again, I want vote to satisfy my vote to put the positions back in. I mean, I certainly don't want to cut any department. I want more service out of every department. I mean, that's just obvious is what any of us would want. But we got to pay for it. And that's hard to do. And the one thing we talked about, if I may, Mr. Simon, was our tipping fees, our pickup fees, our bulk items, and that was more than to cover that amount of money with a little bit of effort there. There's a way to, I understand it's been discussed, to look at putting a small fee on everybody's bill on the sanitation fee to cover that and more.
Yeah, if you don't mind me,
I mean, if you would, explain my position on this, you and I talked about it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that is, I agree with you. If again, in order for your budget to be balanced, we've looked at what revenues are, we have to generate more revenue if you truly want to maybe not do those cuts or do something else. I know Councilman McCray came to my office and asked me to look into or consider placing a $5 fee on all residents for trash pickup. And Councilman McCray, that is on, it's on y'all agenda for Tuesday in the information session at the bottom. That would yield approximately $330,000 of revenue to the city.
And Mr. Simon, is that on every customer, that $5?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
During the year, we're gonna have $5 worth of pickup,
So
or $60.
And I will say, my stance on that, and let me see, is that I figured that people would rather, because like I said, they, stuff wasn't getting picked up in my district for a while, you know, and I know that it looked so bad, you just wouldn't believe it. And other places around the city, actually. And so what my thinking is that people would rather pay a little $5, and I know that our bills are kind of, you know, high. And of course, we'll hopefully get input from the public at some point or something like that, however we do that. But I think they would rather pay $5 because at some point, like you say, we gonna have to get something picked up, you know. So I don't think that'll be too bad. And I think that'll help us kind of keep that afloat. So I think they would rather do that than have our neighborhoods looking so terrible and the way that they looked before.
The only thing with that is they need to make sure that there's a set schedule.
Mhm.
Like in my neighborhood, it's every Thursday, but some Thursdays are missed.
Yeah.
You're saying the schedule for
For-
brown goods pickup?
Yeah. Like, they do it on Thursdays now, like in my neighborhood.
Are you talking about brown goods or?
Brown
yellow
goods, leaves, all that.
Okay, because those are like considered separate items, I think, are they not? Or brown, or leaves
They're different.
considered brown goods?
no, they do. You're right.
Well, we just need to make sure that they're there on a consistent basis.
Well, I think another thing that we need to look at, and Mr. Simon and I have discussed this week, is, you know, we do have $250-something thousand in tipping fees on here, and that is inclusive of, you know, everything, but about a third of that is brown goods. And, you know, so that's about, I guess, about $100,000 roughly.
Yep.
You know, the ordinance currently says we pick up brown goods. I mean, to me, if I have to choose between cutting to officers and picking up brown goods, I mean, I would cut picking up brown goods. I mean, I don't think we need to put anything off of the table, but we're gonna have to pull the trigger on cutting something. Feels right. I don't know, I don't think there's been a dollar amount put on what we're going to save if we do choose to cut these 2 police officer positions. Is there a dollar amount, Mr. Simon, that you can give us?
Yeah, it's right like 180,000 once you consider fringe and factor in insurance and things of that sort.
The two, right?
Too.
Okay, well, that's an easy choice for me personally, but I mean, I'm one person here. But we, you know, speaking to donations, we got about $120,000 in donations, in here. That's an optional thing. To me, that's more optional than police officers. Like, police officers are something, public safety is something the city has to provide. You know, as I've mentioned in some of the other workshops, a lot of these organizations that we're giving money to have ample other sources of funding. I think that's something we need to consider.
I will say this, if I remember correctly, when I had that discussion with you about that $5 fee, wasn't that a reference to the brown goods and all that stuff like that?
Yeah.
Okay, and so that would take care of that. So, I mean, we wouldn't even have to talk about cutting that off. You know, that fee would take care of that if we did that.
It would,
And
but
then
the way I see that is, as a taxpayer, I'm paying for that service already because the county provides it. I can take all my brown goods to the county dump. So if we charge $5 as a city, it's kind of like you're getting double charged for the same service that you may or may not choose to use. I do think, a possibility would be, to charge a fee per use. If somebody needs a brown goods pickup, could they call the city, schedule it, and we charge a fair price to do that? I think, to me, that's a little bit more fair.
I think that would be too much, because then we have to have staff dedicated to doing that. They have to get systems in place for them to keep up with that and all that. All I know is, in my district, I don't know how many of my people can get things to the landfill themselves. And so therefore, I would never vote to cut the 2 police officers. And I don't plan on doing that about those brown goods, because I know the way my district looked last year. And I'll say this too about, it was something else you said other than the brown goods, and it was on my mind.
Leaves and limbs.
No, you.
Donations.
I think you're talking about video transfer.
Oh, okay, and yeah, the donations. And actually, since you said that about those businesses getting those millions of dollars, I looked at the county meeting the other day, and PDRTA spoke at the county meeting, and they are in dire need of funding. Even though they get millions of dollars, if we can't support it as a county, from my understanding, they will, and I'm sure the guy coming next Tuesday and tell us, but they are gonna really cut our services. And, they got a bus that goes from here to Sharon. Many people work over at Ena and different places in Sharon and go stuff, and that will be like one of the main things that is cut. So I think we need to do that. And like I said, my vote is on this budget is contingent upon what I believe is in the best interest of District 5. And so that's just the stance that I'm taking with this. And I don't think cutting 2 police officers nor those brown goods would, do that.
Where are you willing to cut it?
I'm assuming anywhere else, probably.
For example,
So maybe donations, and maybe that extra money that we allocated for the Humane Society, maybe we should hold off on that until, that could add to that. And there's a few more things in there that I believe we could, but that is a donation, so, yeah.
well, the Humane Society is not really a donation because they're providing a direct service to us.
But it is listed under donations, I
Yeah,
believe.
but it should be.
Yeah, I don't know that that's an accurate way to look at it.
It's not, they're providing service. Yeah,
If I could on this,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree with the charging, whether it's 5 or lesser amount to cover the amount we're looking for, which is the shipping fees and not much over that. But you're still gonna have to regulate it.
Right.
I mean, brown goods, if you're charging to pick it up, saying you're gonna pick it up, we'll have half an automobile out there before you know it. I'm serious, they pile
Yes.
things up now in every
Yes.
neighborhood, not just in one district, in all the districts somewhere.
And I mean, like for me as a business owner, that's great because, I was telling some of you guys, I had to clean out an office downtown. So it cost me about $200 to do that. If I can get it done for $5 and pile it up on the side of the street, that's great for me, but I don't know that that's,
Well-
a good move for us as a city.
Well, a lot of our people, especially in District 2, as I compare, piggyback off of Councilman Craig, there's a lot of them that's not able to get it there. A lot of our people are actually, if you're gonna do numbers, about 70% of them is pretty much don't have the funds to go to these places. It was back some time ago when I've been on council for a while now. We had took brown goods off. And I remember that part. And our city then began, it took us about 2-3 months to get it back going again. It was everywhere. It was just unbelievable. I can occur with raising up to $5. I hate that, but I think we can't cut the brown goods. Gotta stay there.
What it qualifies as brown goods, Mr. Simon?
Couches, washing machines, it can be a variety of things. It's large bulk trash that's not
Furniture,
vegetation.
cheers.
Tree trunk,
So, And that's brown, so it varies.
So all those things usually, when you have to get rid of them, it's typically it's being replaced with another one.
You mean out of the home? I mean,
Not
Yeah,
necessarily
I
if
don't know if
somebody's
I can
cleaning
conclude
out.
that.
Yeah, like a landlord or something
Yeah.
like that. But we're not really worried about landlords though. We're more worried about citizens.
Well, a lot of times, a lot of this stuff occurs when people move out of homes and then they leave items there. And you'll see a lot of that stuff, move for us to pick up.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of times the citizens, and I'm speaking my area, you're not gonna have a great deal every week of brown goods, because they don't have a whole lot of brown goods. You know, if we talk about furniture and we talking about other items, you're not gonna get a whole lot of that from my neighborhood.
Because how often are people replacing couches, mattresses, appliances, like,
Right.
you know?
The things I'm concerned about, maybe we got a different description, but it does, people that pay someone to take a tree down and they pile it by the road. I don't mean limbs, I'm talking about stump the truck thing or they pick up.
Well,
They're paying that person to take the tree down.
that's not allowed.
Definitely,
yeah.
Okay, good, and that would stay that. That's just an example of paying a contractor to do something for you. He has to finish his or her job by hauling it off.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, good. At least
Can
I'm
we
fine
ask
with
for
it.
public feedback about this through the survey process like we did previously?
Anything y'all ask me to do, I will do it expeditiously.
Can I address Mr. Jennings on that? It's kind of like on that when people cutting trees and doing things, the contractors in your district. That's where you come in as a councilman watching your district, seeing what's going on in your district. And Mr. Simon can tell you, I've been very vocal to him, calling them when they cut down trees. I have talked to him about it. Like, I'm not gonna call trees, their names, but I'll be on that quickly because I know that we didn't do it. It was a contractor done it. Or anything outside, even if it's sheetrock or whatever the situation is, a real company doing, we should pick up their brown goods.
Well,
They brown goods, even with shingles, all of that. You really have to be up on what's going on in your district, not being funny, but just being real. And I keep District 2 pretty good on that part. When somebody is doing something, it's a contract. The contractor is supposed to take care of their own, not us. And I'm very vocal to that, and I watch that really good. And probably because I don't work, but like you guys that have an everyday job, and my job is to ride around in the district and see what's going on daily, seeing what's going on, talking to people, being around them, and letting them know that what we can do and what we can't. And that helps me out a lot. And I have called Mr. Simon or something. We have to charge people sometimes when they do things because they don't have no trash pickup. If they not have the trash pickup, paying the fee to pick up, and we're not picking it up unless we do charge them.
Well, to clarify my feelings, and I'll hush on this now, then yes, I'm all for the brown good fee. And of course, everything, if you have a problem with different ones outside of what we consider brown, what we all know brown good is supposed to be, then it's an administrative problem, sorry, but you got a public works director as well to say, no, we don't pick that up. Or we will pick it up for an additional fee. I don't know how you work that, it's your business. I think I would rather vote for a brown goods fee of up to $5, if that's the number, that's just what we're talking about. And retain the 2 police officers as well as encourage the chief to good luck on filling his positions. Because, that's been a problem, obviously. And that was the reason. I didn't want to cut back on the police department. I did want to say we've operated without those people for most of my time on council.
What's the current charge for trash pickup?
24. And it might
$24.
not be $5, it might be $4. We talked about 100 and 350, 330. Please do.
Yes, 24.
It's 24, I'm sorry, 24. I can just give a little bit of perspective and all of you decide kind of what you want to do. We're kind of going backwards a little bit, kind of back to our first workshop. Kind of where we are as far as what we agree on. I'll just remind all of you know this is your budget is a compromise. Like you never want to kind of state what you're going to do and not do. I mean, because at the end of the day, none of you are going to get everything you want on the budget. That's a guarantee. That's just not going to happen. But I will say this: if all of you want to do the $5 fee, of course, you just do that through a formal vote. Of course, you'll have to advertise that, or we should advertise that to our citizens. Please be reminded our citizens have been fighting us for a year to not pay a $5 minimum fee for a lot of our utilities. So I suspect they may not warm up to that, but I'll let all of you deal with that. I'm just giving some perspective and context here. Don't get me wrong, I support Chief Crossan. I love the police department. My take, looking at it strictly professionally, is if you're ever going to cut positions, you do that through attrition, which means you cut vacant positions.
So
For the police department, police department has been, they have not been fully staffed for several years. I don't want to exaggerate. I've been here 3. When I got here, there was 12 vacancy positions. But at that time too, my predecessor was preparing budgets for all of you that had what they call a vacancy credit in there. Whereas the money for those vacant positions stayed in the individual departments, and the departments used that money for other things. That's so wrong, so backwards.
Yeah.
That incentivizes a department head to not hire for positions. And so when you look up and you wonder why you got multiple positions, and it wasn't just the police department, we have vacant positions in other departments as well. So what administration came in and did, we said, vacant positions do not belong to you. Vacant positions belong to the city, not the individual department. I used to have department heads who come to me and say, well, if I have these 3 vacant positions that we hadn't hired from, can I take the salaries and go buy X, Y, and Z? I'm like, no, you can't do that operationally. So, I mean, whatever you guys want to do, but I'm hearing you talking about cutting services versus cutting 2 positions through attrition. Really listen to yourselves. Cutting services that will impact a lot of citizens versus cutting positions through attrition, which means they're vacant positions already. Given a little bit more context, they have been vacant for a number of years. Now, don't get me wrong, I support the chief when he says he needs them, because there are some operational things that he's doing moving forward where he will need those positions. But I know y'all have to make tough decisions. I just want you to understand what you're doing when you're talking about cutting services across the board for your community, and when you're talking about implementing the $5 fee for trash pickup. And I get it. The administration's job after y'all do all of that will be to conform it and make sure operationally that it's efficient. And I'm willing to do that. But I just want to give y'all context, because it appears like when we're trying to get a first reading across the finish line, we're kind of going back to even the discussion about donations. So that's just my thing. Yeah, please.
So I got 2 questions, I guess. So is that department the only one with vacancies?
No, we have, if you look online, I think our utilities department
Mhm.
have a few vacancies. We actually had a few people to retire. So we have some vacancies in wastewater, and we have some in water. And like I posed at the council at one of our workshops, is that you tell me what you want to cut, we have some vacant positions out there. That's how we started this conversation. It wasn't, just so you know, I know you weren't at that meeting. Council didn't laser focus in on the police department. We had discussed all the positions and all that we had talked about in the past. We were going line item, page by page. And when we got to the police department, we recognized there were vacancies. Just like when we got to the utilities department, we recognized there were vacancies as well. Council just happened to that night land on the vacancies for the police department because those vacancies have been in place for years. The vacancies with the wastewater and water departments are recent vacancies.
But the director of public utilities, I see we had that job over for years, and we still have yet to get anyone, you know, in those positions, in that position. We've even tried to re-advertise that in a different way. Now, let me ask you, this is my second question. Speaking of that position, and I know this might be too far-fetched, but have we ever thought about kind of bumping that position down? And I know we got a utility billing manager, but have we ever thought about bumping it down into like a managerial position and then, I guess, trying to put that person to get through the right courses or whatever like that, if it's not that costly? You know, since we always seem to have a hard time finding or filling that position. But, and my second part to that would be, maybe we may need to cut something from that salary or whatever. Since that has been a vacant position for years, for a lot of years.
Sure. I don't know if you remember. No, council has never discussed reducing the salary in that position. As a matter of fact, what council did discuss and agree on was adding to the salary in that position. All of council agreed on that. And regarding bumping down the position, and you guys tell me what you want to do, bump it down or cut it. Again, I put all this on the table to council at that meeting that night when we got to the point where we were presenting, getting close to a balanced budget. I think the real debate that we had that night was more centered around the donations. But after we went through all of our sheets and line item by line item, that's kind of where we landed. So I just wanted to give you that because it wasn't laser focused on the police department. A lot of factors were considered.
I mean, for me, that utility director position is needed now more than ever, though, with, you know, the things we have going on, the issues with utilities. I take what you're saying, but
we haven't had it filled in.
no, we haven't.
Right,
But-
it's the equivalent to one of those police
It is.
positions, right?
It is.
So, I mean, we may need to look at cutting the position, and since the previous administrator was acting in that position, right?
Yeah, but I know you're going on. You don't want to do that. He officially had both titles, but the job is too big for that. Council separated it out just before I was hired to be more efficient.
And I feel like the needs have grown.
Yes, they have.
They're not getting smaller, you know, as far as utilities. And, you know, we have broached cuts in other departments, administration, you know, for example. But I don't think the same level of discussion has been there as what we've had with the police department. And I think Chief Crosland is here, and, you know, I'm looking, there's 22 current officers, 6 unfilled positions, correct?
No, they have, as of our last count, I think we have some emails going back and forth. They now have 26 positions, 22 certified officers, and then we recently hired some uncertified officers. So we have 4 uncertified officers, and we have to go that route sometimes because we can't get candidates, and that's the route to go to try and get them trained. But that's how tough it is to get certified officers in these positions.
If we cut these 2 positions from the police department, is that going to compromise their ability to have coverage without overextending the officers that are currently in place? Is that going to put them in a position where they're working too much overtime or, you know, back-to-back shifts or something like that. I mean, could Chief Crosland speak
Chief
to
can
that a little bit?
absolutely come up. I'll say this, and Chief can come up. The positions have been vacant for a while, and they do, just like the fire department, accrue a lot of overtime. Ideally, you want to be fully staffed. When you aren't able to do that, you do accrue overtime. But I'll have to let the chief answer it operationally because the positions have been vacant for years.
He's
So-
26 now.
Yeah, because, I mean, they have to have a certain amount of people on staff, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week,
Sure,
and,
that was the case years ago when they were vacant. That is the case today when those positions are vacant, like that.
Yeah.
Like having the vacancy on the books does not change their operational requirements.
right.
Chief, you can go ahead and go up.
Mayor Pro Tem, Council. So it's my understanding that I did send a notice to Mr. Simon. It wasn't to be rebellious in my attempt, but as a leader, I have to stand firm in my decision for
Yeah, I
the
didn't say that.
security force, the city of Bennettsville. During the time we were 11 people short, but I was on 12 to work night shift for a year and a half. Not talking about anybody's leadership, but I'm not the type to promise anybody anything about, I can bring you in and do this. I don't do that. If I see you a good candidate, I see that you provide quality service to the city of Bennettsville, that's when you get a job. I don't make promises to where other people did, and it kind of put us in a bad position. When I had the chief of police and the assistant chief, they were shift, and we still doing it now, but as of 11 down, we only now 4 or 5 short. I sent Mr. Simon some emails. He does work with me to try to get positions filled, because I now have 2 more that I need him to approve, which one is certified. He's come from Ori. He's bypassing the Marlboro County Sheriff's Office, he's bypassing Terrell, and he used to work here. He wants to come back here and work. He's certified, he's ready to go. It was rough during that time because I think during that time it was just too much going on with the top tier administration. I worked night shift, so I wasn't really in the mix, but I still had to understand that I had to work and make sacrifices to the city because I did work night shift for a long time. We're still fortunate, we're still working, and we're still trying to achieve the mission that we're trying to see, which is new leadership. I know I came in, I changed some things because I had my own vision. With their own vision, people coming. And the reason why I can't get certified officers is because I can't compete with certain salaries. If a guy came from Florence, he was making $22.50 or $23.50. He can't come here and make $19.97 because he already has the lifestyle. He's living with his family, doing his own job. But if he had problems over there, he's trying to get a way out. I've had that. I had people come from Florence put in jobs, but when I told them the wages, they just turned it down.
Starting salary, here's about 4,000 less than at
Pretty much, yes,
Florence
ma'am.
or,
And sign-on bonuses. We had a sign right here by Taco Bell from the Florence Police Department.
yeah.
They was advertising, you know, how many times we all looked at that sign, we saw that, the sign-on bonuses and how much they started out with. It was really a punch in the gut, because like I had guys that kind of looked at it every night and probably stared at it saying,
Yeah.
but they held on just to see what the benefit police are offering. I mean, and I understand we have to do cuts across the city, I mean, but, you know, as a leader, I have to stand firm and kind of voice my opinion, because I still answer calls. I come do my devotion in the morning, open my door, start my day, but I get back in the car and I start around the city. So, you know, it's not nothing far-fetched for me to sit here and not answer a call in the city, because I still do. And these cadets that we're hiring, these uncertified, they're actually probably gonna be the best products of the city for years, due to the fact that trained right, they'll stay here and work because they have a leader that puts himself last, and they see that they work themselves to death. I'm a product of somebody who took interest in me, and I was uncertified. I went to the jail when I started police work. So that person gave me a chance, and when I was told, hey, listen, you get this job, but I fire you for anything that's on paper, a test paper, I had to consider, like, all right, what I'm gonna do. But I signed my paper and I passed every test. I went to the academy to look where I stand at the day's chief police job. So an uncertified person, give him a chance, I bet you he'll break his back trying to get back in work and provide the service. Yes, sir.
How many positions in total do you have, vacant and filled?
We have 22 officers. We have 4. We have 1 in the academy now. We have 2 cadets that's waiting to take the cumulative test with the 4 weeks in the house that we have. I have possible another 2 that Mr. Simon needs to approve or look at to approve. Right now, that will push us up to about 27, 28.
And how
Those two
many,
will put you at 28.
28.
so, and how many is he allotted for? 30?
28.
28.
28.
So it sounds like the position's about to be filled that we proposing doing away with. Am I misunderstanding?
He has 2 candidates, one certified and one certified. The last 4 people we hired, the last 4 were uncertified officers. So
Because I can't compete
I'm
with-
telling you that he's right. We can't compete with those people, so we're having to.
I understand that, but what I'm asking is, it sounds like the 2 positions, if everything goes good with those last 2 people, that'll give them 28 positions, right?
With 2 cadets.
with the staff.
Full, they'll be fully staffed, right?
He'll be fully staffed, but I think y'all are asking questions about operations. So Chief, if you can, I'll let you do this.
Now, I don't think I went into specific about operation this time.
Ms. Stark did, because I think she opened it up by having Mr. Chief to come to the table, because she asked if they didn't have those positions when it compromised his operations.
I can answer that.
Hold on a second.
Uncertified.
So we shouldn't know that.
If it works,
Is that a
it's certified.
problem to ask about that?
We shouldn't know that as council people.
Can I get out my comment? Chief Crosby,
Yes, sir.
can you please explain to them in the public how you use certified officers versus uncertified officers? They need to be clear that, so they won't think because there's a body there that your operational efficiency is there.
Yes, sir.
You need to help them out.
All right, so what he's saying is, the breakdown is, if I have candidates that's waiting to ascertain things from the academy and standards, they're in training, they can't be utilized for nothing because of the implications of what the academy will do to me as the police department. We'll be on the news as fast as if I put a certified person out there, uncertified person out there to do something. They're not justified to do that. So what we're doing, we have lieutenants and we have that's covering shifts, that's taking the place of those potential candidates that will pass the academy and then come back to work to ease those lieutenants back into their respective roles. Because I have 2 lieutenants that's working shift now, and they're still doing a good role. They're doing their admin jobs and their actual answer calls for service to them. So once those certified people they take 4 weeks of cumulative tests here, then they go to the academy and take the big test, and then they'll take the exercise test, and then they give a start date. And then after that start date, they'll be at the academy for 8 weeks, and then we'll still function in the capacity we are now for us, answering calls and everything else until they come back and graduate. Once they complete FTO, field training officer training, then they'll be released on the road. Then who's ever working, like Lieutenant Hale, if he's working a shift, the officer slide in his position. Lieutenant German, that person slide in his position. Then we'll move somebody to night shift, and then we should be covered.
What's the time frame once someone is hired uncertified? What should be the time frame for them to
They
finish
have
the process?
4 weeks in-house training at the police department. Once they pass all these tests through the South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy, then they'll have a date to go to the academy in Columbia. They take the big cumulative test, which is a combination of all 4 tests that's combined. And then they take the exercise test, which is a PAT test. They have to pass that in 2 minutes and 6 seconds. If they ascertain that contract and make it, valid to where they can get the thumbs up, the academy give them a date, and that'll be the next date of the week, which would be a Sunday. I had a candidate here, Ben Hendricks. He's been hired as an investigator. He took all his tests. He went to the academy last Sunday. So this is his first week in the academy, and he's doing well. So basically 7 more weeks to go. So once those 7 weeks is finished, because of the standards of the academy, then he'll come back and he'll go to work.
So about 3 months total?
Pretty much. Yes, ma'am.
Chief,
Yes, sir.
let me ask you and Mr. Simon this. Now, with this budget, we are cutting 2 officers. And I'm saying this year's budget. So and I wanna make this clear. It's not saying that, okay, say you have 20 officers now, okay, and you need 22. But this year, for this budget, if you don't get these 2 officers, that don't mean that you can never get them again, right? So if you give us a little time, and like you're saying, we are talking about maybe candidates going to the academy and maybe not doing what they do to pass. So this take a little time. So it's just this year, we're not saying forever, right? That we might add maybe 4 next time. But it seems like we're saying that, well, no, you're never gonna be able to get any other officers. Is that what we're saying? Administrator? No, we're saying maybe next budget,
Yeah, and
we might can add more.
We've talked about that with the fire department and police department, because the fire department needs more positions as well.
What about the possibility of dual certified officers? Because I know there is a need in the fire department for staffing as well. I think that's something that's been utilized in the past, maybe not all that successfully, but I'm wondering if that's a possibility to look at.
Could we please give Miss Weaver a chance? She already got one hurt on.
I don't wanna hurt my other one.
Yeah.
On all of this, my thought is the 2 positions need to stay with the police department. They've already had 4 positions taken away that were promised back
Not true.
before you.
Oh, okay. No, I took those 4 positions.
You took those 4?
Yes.
Well, they've never been given back to them, and now we're talking about taking 2 more positions from them. And like Mr. Scott says, well, if they can get them back maybe next year. Next year never comes.
Well, so I think what you do is you have to look at,
Yeah.
well, you have to look at the need and look at the conditions in that current time. At that time, the police department had 12 vacancies.
Mhm.
At that time, those vacancies were not new. Most of them were 2 to 3 years old when I walked in the door. 12 vacancies, and the city had a lot of other needs. So that was an easy decision to make. That's why you have a Brittany Jones. That's why you have a grants coordinator. That's why you have another 2 more positions at your electric department. Remember, we were struggling with the electric department where we were about to make a decision. Remember, they were down to 2 people. That's what we did with those positions. Again, just looking out for the city. We did not promise those positions back. If, just like Mr. Scott said, conditions change annually. If for some reason, and again, I don't think this fight is really worth the time. And if we want the chief to keep position, to keep them. But if for some reason he didn't get the positions this year and he had to work with 26 officers, and we looked at our revenues, we know our revenues are going in the right direction. We know we're just getting past some projects that we were spending because of the remnants. These are remnants of what has happened in the past. We could be adding 3 positions to the police department next year if it's budgeted and funded, and you guys and your revenues can pay for it. So that's all I'm saying. But no,
But
4 positions were never promised to go back, because you would have to look at the conditions. See, if you promise that 4 positions are gonna come back, that means that you're married to that number.
and I can understand that.
Okay.
I can understand that, but it's just like, okay, we're gonna take it from here, we're gonna take it from here. But the 2 that you're waiting for Mr. Simons to look at, they're certified.
One is,
One is.
yes. And I'm not trying to be funny to anybody here, but I need black officers, and I have 2 that's applied. I need to hire them. I'm not trying to be funny. I need those officers on it. I'm not, listen, I don't see color, but I need those 2 black officers, because we don't have that yet. There's only a few black officers on the road. You can't go in the neighborhood and have an all-white squad trying to handle.
Yeah, And I
regardless of color.
that.
It's just that they don't respond well to that because they look at it different. So if I had these two young officers come, they can kind of intertwine and kind of settle the problem out, but it's still, they're looking into like, in essence of law enforcement, they still ain't gonna like them, but the thing is, they can kind of relate to them but
And we can shorten that conversation.
Well, now maybe I'm misunderstanding something, because this is what I was trying to understand. And to that point of kind of cutting them and saying we go at them next year, we just say we talk to the fire department about some positions. So then next year we trying to get them find 4 positions for them. And then we go say, well, we did without the police last year, so we won't do that. But what I was gonna say is, that's why I'm against like cutting them at all, because I don't think we'll follow back up on them. But I just want to make sure I'm understanding this right. I really do. Now you are allotted, because I heard everything everybody said. So they allotted 28 positions, right?
They have 28. They have 28 positions.
Okay, and if it's 2 people waiting to be approved, correct?
That's right.
yes.
And if those 2 people get approved, how many positions will be filled?
28.
28. All right.
28.
27, 28.
And so if
It'd be 20. I've already worked with HR posting on this. Yeah.
so, okay, and if those, and I know there was some issue about the 4 certified people, but if those 4 certified people pass the academy and all that good stuff, right, and become certified officers, then all the positions will be filled, right? Okay.
You have 1,153 students that's enrolled in the academy. 900 plus will graduate. You have an 80.4% pass rate if they will go to the academy. The academy has set standards for these young men and women to excel. If they don't, because it's a standard that the academy sets. I'm pretty sure that these guys, they came here to get hired. I'm pretty sure they'll achieve what they're trying to go to.
Right, so therefore, all 28 positions would then be filled.
Yes.
The same ones that we ain't been able to get nobody for over all these years. So that means you'll be fully staffed.
Yeah. Now keep in mind,
Okay.
when was the last time that we hired? Hold on now. When was the last time that we hired 5 uncertified officers in less than 2 months?
It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Okay,
And what they got to do, go ahead.
if we could, let's move on. I think we all know where we are with this.
Chief, I
So I
support
got
you.
to short anybody else, but Chief, appreciate it. I think you made a great point. We have a first reading to get to, and we need to recommend any changes that we have for this first reading. We talked about maintaining the 2 police officers before we had the first reading. I think that sounds pretty positive. We want to put that in before we vote. And it's a budget's a budget, a first reading's a first reading, we'll go from there, but that also means we have to, in another time between now and they still can put us X number of dollars off. So we got to look at the income level or the other cut level, which we can talk about again, or we can talk about now before we have first reading on how we're gonna proceed. We know our tipping fees are high, and that was brought up at any other discussion as to general discussion as to how we're gonna gain back if we choose to put the budgets, the salaries, or pay back in to fill the police department with the required position. Where is it coming from? We talked of $5 here, that's one. We talked of cuts and donations, which is 2, and those would have to be many to make it work. I don't think we're ready to change many, because we've worked hard to get the budget to where it is, and I think we're pretty satisfied overall. Utilities are fine. We can't intermingle utility discussion with the general service. They're giving us plenty of contribution to pay their way on the salaries they're paying.
I think all of you councilmen know, and I was talking about donations. I think all of you know how I feel about them, and I spoke about them when we was in our meetings. And I think we might need to start looking into it. I spoke on it very highly when we was meeting. That's something I think, we can start looking back into again, because we got some serious choices here. It really is.
Mr. Simon, you remember how we talked about the other week well, not the other week, that's how I talk, about raising was it fees or fines? One of
I think
Fines.
fines, like for
Did-
ordinance violations
We
and
talked about
such.
most of them.
did y'all have time to kind of prepare anything, like figures or?
Yeah, we'll be presenting that Tuesday.
Okay.
What all of you talked about was, 5% increase in fees and fines across the board. At first, the conversation was more about fees and not fines, and then we got into some enforcement talk, and then we decided fees and fines across the board. So we're crunching the numbers for a 5% increase to see what kind of revenue that generates. So I guess all we just need to let me know what you want once we get to that point. You discussed a 5% increase across the board on fees and fines. That is what some of you asked for. That's why we hadn't presented it to as an action item. This was like individuals asking for. Like you came in my office and you mentioned the $5 fee across the board for the bulk trash. So we went and ran those numbers. I think Mr. Jennings wanted to know if the hospitality fund could fund the position, and that's answered on that. Answered it's no.
Thank you.
And so we're gonna have that information ready. So again, I mean, if you give your budget first reading, you do have time to go back.
Yeah.
And you still can consider what you want to do with the police department. And you might find yourselves, if you all agree upon those other methods or sources of revenue, you might find yourself doing even more. Not cuts, but even going the other way regarding adding something to your budget, depending on what your revenues will allow you to do. But tonight, the budget is everything you have asked for is in this balanced budget. Of course, it includes 26 officers and not 28, but you can always change that. But 80%, 85% of the budget, all of you have agreed on it. You've gone through it line by line on multiple occasions. We talked specific about revenues, talked specifically about donations, and a whole host of other things. So y'all are close.
Yeah.
Now, I got a crazy question. Now, we having a public hearing, we having a public hearing on the budget, right? I mean, the first reading on the budget.
Yeah.
Well, it's not being read out in its entirety or nothing like that. So I guess my question is, and no copies are copies like being put out for the public view so they can speak on them, if that makes sense, so they can make a public comment, or like what is public comment like? How does that work in, I guess, this setting, since they can't see the budget or any issues to speak in agreement to or like in opposition of?
That's actually a great observation. If you notice, when the mayor was setting up the final round of meetings, he gave you an option 1 and an option 2. And I was leaning more towards an option 2 because I felt like we could have gotten through the process and y'all could give first reading approval. And now we have a draft budget to share with the community. You share that draft budget with the community, and then they come and have a public hearing, and by then they could have looked at a draft budget. But most of you agreed on option 1, which is today, which put the public hearing before us. But that's okay. What you still can do is, if today, keep in mind your public hearing, your budget survey, all the ways that you can try and engage your community regarding the budget can be done multiple different ways. There's no set number. You can have 5 public hearings if you want to. So if you want to do that, if y'all give first reading to your budget tonight, then we have a draft budget that we can share. Just because you don't have a public hearing doesn't mean you can't schedule one when you do your regular meeting next week. Or it doesn't mean that you can't allow people to speak on the agenda. They can always come and speak, even if it's not, the budget's not on the agenda. That's why we have that separate section where you can talk about what's not on the agenda.
Yeah.
It's lots of opportunities for people, along with the survey, to still be engaged here. Like, we've gone way beyond. I wish people would show up. They just don't. No one showed up last year. No one showed up the year before that. So let's just look at reality here for a second. But we're still going to try and do everything we can to get the budget out. So option 1 or 2 would have worked, and it still can. So don't get hung up on that. We still got ways to share. I think the key is time is not on our side. So getting a first reading done so that we can kind of hash out the 10 or 15% that you guys disagree on, and then we can get across the finish line.
Very good. Can I have a motion?
I so move.
Staff's first reading of budget is written tonight, knowing we have more work to do on it, but to stay on a tentative schedule to get this done by April the 30th, which is the last thing I want to do is go beyond that, because it does everything back to last year. That's not what we want.
Second.
Can I hear the original motion again?
Yeah, 'cause I was a little lost.
I was really asking for the motion. Does anyone have a motion for first reading? That's the way I do it. Or I can make it if y'all.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion that we approve the first reading of the 2026-27 budget, 2026 fiscal year budget pending corrections, I guess.
Don't say correction.
I mean, pending changes.
Yeah, well, that's already understood.
Oh,
You can make changes up
okay.
until you say, you don't have to say it.
Well, that was it. Please don't make me restate it, because I didn't remember.
I second the motion.
Okay,
there's
there
a
we
motion- There's a motion on the floor and a second to pass the first reading for budget as presented tonight, with discussion of more time to follow before finalized reading. And everybody in favor to pass this budget as we see tonight in first reading, please raise your right hand. Okay, thank you. I think we're on a great track. All right. We want to try to, we have a scheduled meeting next Tuesday for a regular council. And we have time next week for the second meeting is scheduled when tentatively?
A regular meeting Tuesday, 21st, at 6:30.
And you are gonna post this draft copy for public view.
Very good. Thank y'all for our discussion. I know I'm sure that the mayor's having, things are going well for he and his wife. I know he had not to be here, but I still think this council is doing a great job on this budget. And any other?
When are we gonna work on the budget again?
That's what I.
Well,
It's
we're
second
trying
reading
to
is
work
Tuesday.
on it. I think he's gonna probably send us some changes after our discussion tonight, and, and just keep discussing that way. If we could have if we have a true work session and we need one, it's got to be real quick.
Yes,
So we
so,
don't want to carry this to the last week.
yeah, second reading is not.
It's not Tuesday.
28.
Yeah, it's 28th. What we're doing, we're having a regular meeting Tuesday, and that means heavy on some contractual things that we need to take care of. So we wanted to disconnect from the budget, so we can really focus on that. And second reading is scheduled for the 28th. So we have that much time. 28th, the following Tuesday.
If we could meet, let's just tentatively set a work session for Thursday after next Tuesday, I don't know the date.
Good.
Okay, 'cause I'm gonna be out of town on the 28th, that's okay, I don't have to be here for that. Let's set a work session for 5:30 on a week from today. Whatever that date is.
The 23rd.
Okay.
Yep.
At
That work for
5:30 or
everybody?
6?
You tell me, doesn't matter, 6 is easier for me, but everybody likes to get
Yeah,
started.
let's do 6. 'Cause I was a little,
6 is good.
I was a little all over the place today. I couldn't figure out which 5:30 or 6.
Yeah, 6 is good for me.
6.
It would be you'll send us out some more information. And we'll have clear discussion between now and then, official discussion back with you one-on-one if we need these questions asked.
Yeah, and you'll have some information on potential revenue sources that y'all will be able to consider. It'll make things easier for you.
Very good. Thank y'all. With that, we're gonna stand adjourned. Appreciate y'all putting that.